Hey guys, it's TheFrXion here, or Tiger Tank 12, however you wanna call me, I don't really care. And today we're on the test server 9.17.1. And it has taken me, I think, about 3.5 hours to get on this server because the game unfortunately crashed when I was in queue at place, ranked at place, I think 3,200. Now that seems like a lot, but it was not a lot if you compare it to the 35,000 people that first wanted to get on the server. And then immediately my game unfortunately crashed and I had to wait another 40,000 places to get into the 9.17.1 test server. And just for that, I would say a like would be very appreciated. No, get the hell out of there with this. I don't like to be like one of those guys who are fishing for likes. I absolutely hate that when people are begging for likes in their videos. So that was just a little joke. So finally we made it onto the test server, and 9.7.1 is bringing some very interesting changes. Some new additions, new HD tanks, new balancing, well, some balancing changes for German medium tanks, American tank destroyers that are faster now, Japanese heavy tanks that get even more high explosive shit, and what I think is the most interesting change is that the E50M is finally a HD tank. No, I'm just kidding. The most interesting change is obviously going to be the German heavy line that has just been introduced newly into the game, and the new tier 10 German heavy tank that we will be seeing very soon, and that we have actually been seeing for at least 4 years now. This tank was the very first Clan Wars reward tank, just with a 128mm gun now. Other than that, nothing changes, and I think that is kind of lame. Since they added a new branch, they could have maybe added some new features to the tank, made it look a little bit more unique, because right now it just looks very, very much the same to the Clan Wars reward tank. And they're going to make the Clan Wars reward tank a little bit special so that you can see, well, I actually got that tank of Clan Wars, blah, blah, blah. So they're going to be adding some stripes and stuff like that to that vehicle. So yeah, this tank is running the 12.8cm gun instead of the 15cm gun that the other vehicle is running, and it's just pretty much an oversized Löwe with the turret in the back. So yeah, we'll get to that eventually. But first of all, let's take a little look at some of the high definition tanks that I actually own in my garage that have been overworked. Well, the very first competitor that I'm very, very happy of that they're going to be changing is the VK4502P. It looks really, really sleek. The very first thing that I noticed when looking at this tank is that the machine gun port on the front is pretty much gone and is replaced by just a weird outgrow of metal. I have no idea what that is for. Just maybe to strengthen the hull at that part, but who knows. The viewport over there looks very, very funny. I think it's kind of round. Did not expect that. And it looks really, really flat. If you look at it, there's pretty much just flat metal. The hull is very, very nicely shaped, and overall it's a very nice looking German heavy tank. Now, moving on. One of the tanks that I've been waiting for a very long time to get a HD variant is the Object 140, and I think it looks absolutely stunning. It does not look like an Object... Okay, let me explain. This tank does not look very, very similar to an Object 140 for me right now. It looks much more like an Object 907 to me right now. If you look at the little picture down there, because of the, how the turret goes down there, and obviously you can still see that it's an Object 140, but it looks just so much nicer now. I love HD tanks, and I think it has been time to finally upgrade those tanks to the new standard of high definition. So the very next vehicle that I'm very happy of going into HD is obviously the E50M and the E50. This vehicle, it's a beautiful tank in HD or even non-HD version. This tank has always been beautiful and very, very nice to look at. So if we take a look at the German medium tank line, since that is going to be the main focus for the, well, not this video, but they're going to be changing the German medium tank line, the Panther, the Panther 2. I'm not sure if they're going to be changing the E50 and the E50M, but I guess they're definitely going to be changing the Panther 2, the Panther, and the other VK previous to the Panther, the successor. No, not the successor, the previous vehicle to the Panther, yeah. So if you look at the Panther 2, it looks very, very sleek as well in HD. Let's get it all upgraded. And it's a very, very nice vehicle. And you can see that the Panther 2 now has a freaking 88mm gun. The very, very long 88mm gun that I'm not sure, is it just for the Panther 2? The E50 also uses this gun. And you can see this gun is getting a much higher pen with 223mm of penetration if you compare it to the 88cm gun that is the old version with 203mm, but with a better rate of fire than the very long 88mm gun. So that is going to make this tank a little bit more versatile. I think they also changed some of the mobility, making it a little bit faster. But to be honest, I've always enjoyed the Panther 2. It was one of those medium tanks, the very first German medium tank for me, that I really felt very comfortable in to be going up against other tier 8 opponents, because it just had this raw power in my opinion. So that they changed it, I think it's a nice feat that the vehicle is getting a little bit overworked and more competitive to the other tanks in the game, since I mean a lot of time has passed since they have added new tanks, new nations into the game. And I mean obviously you have the Chinese tier 8 medium tanks, no, they actually don't have tier 8. Well, they have one, excuse me. But the French tier 8 medium and heavy tanks, the premium versions, all that kind of stuff. And all those tanks are competitors to the Panther, to the VK3002M and the Panther 2. Because this entire line has been in the game for a very long time, since the beginning. And they needed to overwork that so that they can be still competitive to the other vehicles out there of other nations. I think the Russians have a very, very good very good medium tier 8 medium tanks with the T-44 and the Object 416. I'm not sure, is this tank now finally in HD? We have to check, because that is one of the vehicles that I want to see in HD as well. The T-44, one of my favorite tanks, and unfortunately it is not. But this vehicle is just absolutely amazing. I've enjoyed this vehicle for so many years now, and I still enjoy it today. So the very next change that we have to take a look at is that from the Tiger P now, you can go towards the VK4502A and the VK101P. This is actually the predecessor to the mouse. It's the it looks very, very much like the mouse, and we're going to be equipping the top parts of the tank, and you can see it looks very similar to the mouse. Its hull is almost identical except for the back part, which is very weird looking with the rounded kind of shape there. And then you have the turret, which screams mouse tank, but with very, very dominant features that are distinctly different from the mouse. Very first thing you'll notice is the huge cupola on top. That was probably going to be the weak spot, but we'll feature this vehicle and the mouse afterwards in separate videos. I will make a kind of what to expect of the Mäuschen, the VK101P, and the new top 10, top tier German heavy tank, the VK, that is already available as a Clan Wars tank, or has been available as a Clan Wars tank. So let's take a look at this vehicle, fully upgraded. You can see the turret has been overworked as well. Again, the very prominent cupola on top has been moved to the left side and is not as big anymore. And you can see that the turret is finally shaping up into a mouse turret, into the final version, with the side being a lot more, what should I call it? A lot more flat, looking like the mouse turret, except with the viewports. It's also a very, very nice looking vehicle. Then you have the hull, which is very, very similar to the mouse hull, except for the it looks so funny, the little machine gun port on the front, and that looks really funny. Eventually the mouse pretty much dropped that, and then we have the gun mantlet, which is very funny looking as well. So, and then you get to the mouse, the top tier German heavy tank, the very first tier 10 heavy tank in the game, I think, with the IS-7. And what a tank it is. Still very, very sleek, very beautiful, and still one of the slowest tanks in the game. Then we can move on to the Americans. The very first thing that we have to get out of the way is that the American tank destroyer line, the T-28 prototype, the T-28 and the T-95, are getting a speed buff. All of these vehicles are now able to reach top speeds of up to, or starting from 20 kilometers all the way up to, I think, maybe mid or high 20 kilometers per hour. I think it's not going all the way up to 30 kilometers per hour, but at least the T-95 will not be crawling around the ground with 13 kilometers per hour. So you have 20 kilometers per hour. I wished that they have introduced that a lot sooner when I was playing this tank. It was kind of a pain in the butt to get this vehicle from one side to the other, but still, I've really enjoyed my time in the T-95. The T-28, on the other hand, is getting faster. I think it's going to be even more. It's going to be faster than the T-95 with, let's check real fast. Mobility-wise, this vehicle can go all the way up to 22 kilometers per hour. And that is definitely a needed change for those vehicles. Then, we don't have any real changes for the French tanks. Unfortunately, we still don't have a HD variant of the Batchat 25T. I'm still waiting for that. That is one of my favorite medium tanks, although I am not the very best player in it. The Brits are not getting any real changes either. I think there's some HD tanks that are being overworked here. I have to say that the changes to some premium tanks, for example, the Tiger, the Japanese Tiger, the heavy tank number 6, are going to be happening. The premium ammunition will get a higher pen with 194 millimeters of penetration instead of 174. What I don't understand is that they don't give a buff to the AP rounds, the standard rounds, which is kind of awkward in my opinion. Then we have a faster FV4202 with 50 kilometers per hour now, which allows you to get around the battlefield very fast. I mean, this tank used to be 35 kilometers per hour when it first came out as a premium tank, and even as a tier 10 medium tank, it was only running around 40 kilometers per hour. So this tank now is a lot more versatile, and it's going to be a lot more dangerous to enemy tanks. I think people who own this vehicle are going to be happy about the change. Then we have no real changes in the Czech tech tree, no real changes in the Chinese tech tree, and then we get to the Type 4, the Type 5, and those tanks are going to get a new 15 centimeter gun, and this is going to be a high explosive tank, a high explosive based gun, and that is one of the things that I'm not looking forward to. if you have looked at my previous videos, I'm not sure if I've ever openly said anything about the topic high explosive ammunition. I'm not a big fan of high explosive ammunition in the game. Why is that? There are a lot of high explosive based tanks. One of them I have even unlocked myself, and that is the T49. Now this is a howitzer gun. A lot of people love this vehicle because it has a 152mm gun. If you're running around and you get a side or the rear of a vehicle, you can just pretty much one-shot them in one stride. Now I think that is quite a lot of fun on a light tank, or even on certain medium tanks. No, not medium tanks, let's say on certain heavy tanks. For example, the Japanese tier 5 or tier 6 tanks. But what I've noticed is that these tier 5, tier 6, tier 7 tanks are just so annoying to play against. They are very heavily armored. If you're the same tier as these tanks, you have to resort to premium ammunition to get through their armor most of the time. And while they are firing high explosive ammunition at you, you know, just freaking tearing away your HP from very, very early on. And then especially if you're the same tier, you're a medium tank and you do not have a lot of armor, they're going to one-shot you a lot of the times. And it's really annoying because if you're going to be facing the type 4 heavy now or type 5 heavy, they're very well armored, and then at the same time they can just really shoot you with high explosive ammunition doing 500 damage per shot, while being able to protect their weak spot. And that is one of the things that I'm not very keen of, and I'm not happy of that they're going to be changing this. I'm not sure. I think those two tanks definitely needed some overhauling because people did not play them, but I think that had to do with the mobility and just I think the lack of speed that you have with these tanks. But adding high explosive guns might be just the one thing that might break everything at tier 10 for me, because I don't like to go up against these tanks, especially if you're running around in those medium tanks that at tier 10, some of those medium tanks don't have any armor. Let's say the Leopard, let's say the Badjet. Obviously, first of all, you should not be facing off a type 4 heavy or a type 5 heavy, but still at the same time, I think it's not going to be a lot of fun to be getting one-shotted by one of those tanks now, just because they're not fast enough and people don't play them that as much because, well, let's face it, they're not great heavy tanks. If you want a heavy with armor, with a good gun or at least a decent gun, go for the E100 or the Mouse, or even go for the IS-7 and the IS-4. Both have great guns and great armor. And also, while we're at it, the E100, the 15cm gun on the E100 is getting a buff in armor penetration, now having 246mm of pen. Previously, it was only, I think, around 230 something, and that is a nice change. People will not be spamming heat as much as previously, and I think that is a change that was very, very well necessary. Then we're getting a new premium tank. Well, we're getting a lot of new premium tanks in the game. One of them is going to be the Centurion, the Swedish Centurion vehicle, where you can train your medium tank crews in, and, you know, just playing a Swedish medium tank that is actually of British origin. And yeah, I think that wraps up some of the changes, the most important changes in 9.1, 7.1. There are a lot of different changes that you can read in the patch notes that Wargaming have just released a few days ago. They have, I think, changed a lot of mistakes. They have fixed a lot of issues regarding crashes for some people, I think. And then at the same time, they have also reworked I have to check real fast. Where is it? The battle notifications and some of the markers. Since those battle notifications were always green, now you'll see with distinct different colors who shot you, was it a teammate, was it an enemy, what kind of module they damaged, and if the shot was blocked. I think that is a great addition to the game, and we should see more of that coming very soon. So yeah, that pretty much wraps up this entire video. I would really like to know what you guys think of the changes for the Japanese heavy tanks with more HE based tanks in World of Tanks. I'm not a big fan of high explosive based tanks. Going up against them is really annoying most of the time, but maybe you guys enjoy playing them, so I would love to hear opposition or maybe people who are on my side. And up until then, I'll be making some videos regarding the new German heavy tanks and maybe even the new balancing mechanics for the German medium tank lines that have been finally overworked after a very long time being kind of underwhelming in the game. So yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video.